But when you have certain guys in the mix that don't want to buy in all as one, it's going to be hard to do anything good as a basketball team.
I love this city. I literally have done everything that I can. The situation is something that I don't think can be fixed.
Breaking news tonight. James Harden has been traded.
He gets his wish in every way. The trade to the Brooklyn Nets in a blockbuster deal that's going to have ripple effects throughout the NBA.
James Harden is a Brooklyn Net reunited, and it feels so good. That's with KD. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to First Take. Thank you for hanging with us for just a bit. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karen Rose. Fellas, let's get it. And we start by hearing from one, Kevin Durant.
Losing teammates in Karis and Jarrett and Torian, but also welcoming in, a teammate in James Harden.
I heard that's not even finalized yet, so I'll talk about it another time.
I know you don't want to get into things until they are official, but looking into the past, what was it like to play with James? What do you remember about him as a teammate? Because you have played together.
It was fun.
Sure was fun. Take two. All right, here's the breakdown of the whole trade, fellas. Harden lands with the Nets, obviously. The Rockets get a package including Victor Oladipo, 4 first-round picks, and 4 first-round swaps. Indiana gets Karis LeVert, while Cleveland gets Jared Allen and Torian Prince. Max Kellerman, you are up first. What were your first thoughts when you heard this went down?
So many. First, the Nets have to make the finals. They have to make the finals. Let's just assume for a second that Kyrie is on the team and will play for the Nets at some point this season. This is the only big three in the NBA. I don't mean they're 2 great players and here's their 3rd best player. I mean big 3. And whenever we've seen a big 3, they at least make the finals. Celtics put together Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen. They won. Even when Miami failed, they failed in the finals when they had LeBron and Wade and Bosh. There's no other big 3. 2 MVPs who are still at MVP level, and a 3rd guy in Kyrie Irving who's more than just an all-star. He has MVP talent and achieves that all-star plus production. You have those 3 guys, you're supposed to get to the finals at least. And they had to make the deal. Earlier I said, no, you don't trade for James Harden, don't mess this up. But then Dinwiddie was lost for the season. So in fact, kind of counterintuitively, as you lost some depth, as the Nets lost depth and another ball handler in the backcourt, they actually had to lose more depth in order to get high-end talent to compensate. But they did lose depth. They lost Allen. They lost LeVert. And Houston got a haul. 4 firsts and 4 swaps. That's an amazing haul considering the leverage that Brooklyn had, because Harden was out of there. And this is what I mean when I say superstars, Stephen A. in the league, have all the leverage. What do I mean by that? Well, they can sign where they want when their deal is up, LeBron, KD, whomever, right? And they go from team to team. But because of that, guys like AD, say whatever you want about how long it took. AD wanted to go to the Lakers. Where did he wind up? The Lakers. Say whatever you want to say about Harden and the ups and downs. He said he wanted to go to Brooklyn. Where do you wind up? Brooklyn. Let this be a lesson to the owners in case they didn't already understand. If you have a superstar, an MVP caliber player, he's going to wind up where he says he wants to go anyway. Make the best deal you can. Now, finally, Stephen A., they have their work cut out for them. Not only is this not a good defensive team right now, but they're not adding a guy who's like a stalwart defender, in the first place, in James Harden, though his defense till this year, we'll throw this out, has improved through the years. And also, there's only one ball. And while KD is a super great player, with or without the ball, doesn't matter, James Harden and Kyrie Irving both really need and want and like that ball. So they have their work cut out for them. But this team is finals or bust this year.
Well, definitely finals or bust. We agree there. But what I would tell you is, as it pertains to what was on my mind when the deal was first announced, never has James Harden been under more pressure than he is this year. The same could be said for Kyrie Irving, whose career I believe is on the line. You have people looking at him and wondering whether he's worth the trouble. We know what an ultra-talented person he is. He's a superstar talent. We get all of that. But guess what? Right now, he can't play better than me. You know why, Max? Because both of us are not on the court. He's somewhere else other than the Barclays Center on the road with his team. I'm on television. He ain't doing anything on the court that I ain't doing because neither one of us are there. Think about that and put that in its proper perspective. It does not matter how great you are if you don't put your greatness on display and you don't appreciate your greatness to the point where you don't showcase it in the fashion that he is supposed to. In the case of James Harden, this is the deal. You in Houston, you wanted Dwight Howard, then you didn't. You wanted CP3, then you didn't. You wanted Russell Westbrook, then you didn't mind y'all parting ways even though y'all are still boys. In the end, because Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni ended up going too, you decided that you wanted out. Fair enough. But since you arrived in Houston and since you've averaged 25 a game every season in your career in Houston, 30 over the last 3 years, 29 over the last 4 minimum, 28 over the last 5 minimum. Now you're playing with a dude who's better than you in Kevin Durant, who's a flat-out superstar in this game. Fresh off an Achilles tear, 18 months out of action, first 8 games playing this season, averaging 29 a game on 54% shooting. There is no excuse for the Brooklyn Nets not to make it to the NBA Finals. And the likelihood is that if we look at them and they don't make it, it'll be because Harden didn't show up, figuratively, or Kyrie didn't show up, possibly literally. And so as a result of that, I thought about the pressure that these two have on their shoulders because Kevin Durant is leading the pack. Not only is he a superstar, he is one of the most unselfish superstars we've ever witnessed on the basketball court. This dude was averaging 28 a game, shooting 17 shots a game. Kyrie was averaging 26 and shooting 20 a game. So think about that for a second here. And if somebody's going to sacrifice, who's going to sacrifice and make sure that Kevin Durant doesn't have to sacrifice any more than he already has? That's the question mark in all of this. Kevin Durant, as long as he goes out there and plays the way that he plays, we're not going to look at him. We're going to look at Harden or Kyrie Irving, possibly both, because somebody's going to have to sacrifice somewhere. Chris Bosh was a third wheel at sacrifice. Ray Allen was a third wheel at sacrifice. Klay Thompson was a third wheel who sacrificed. Who's going to be that guy that makes the sacrifice for the Brooklyn Nets here? That's why Kyrie Irving and James Harden are so pivotal in all of this. And that's what I thought about, Max. That's what first came to my mind when I first learned that this deal was done.
Obviously, those thoughts are legit. Only thing I would add in terms of who the pressure's on, I think there's a lot of focus on Kyrie because he seems to be melting right now, and James Harden because, okay, James, you want Dwight Howard, you want Russell Westbrook, you want Chris Paul, you want Russell Westbrook. Now, after a year, it doesn't work out. You want to go to Brooklyn. You're joining 2 other superstars. You better win. But in fact, Stephen A., think about who the best player on the team is. I think there's actually the most pressure on KD, strangely, because LeBron, wherever he goes, figures out a way to make it work. It's not just that he has supernatural passing ability. He knows how to lead a group of guys to the promised land. Whether or not they actually win the championship, he gets them there. Basically, every single year. New teammates, a malcontent, doesn't matter. He gets you to the championship, and you have a shot to win it when you have LeBron James. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson led teams to championships. Kobe Bryant led teams to championships, even after Shaq. Kevin Durant, his package as a player matches maybe favorably with anyone I just mentioned. He's taller, he's fast, he shoots at least as well as anyone I just mentioned. Maybe Magic and Bird did and Kobe did for so much of their careers, and obviously Michael Jordan. None of the guys I just mentioned is a superior package of basketball skill and talent and size than Kevin Durant. Now it's time for him to show that other component to his game, that he can lead a team, a talented team, to at least the finals.
Well, that lengthy soliloquy notwithstanding, here's the reality of the situation, Max Kellerman. Tell me one time where LeBron James has had to deal with dual personalities like that. We're talking about Kyrie Irving, and we're talking about a guy in James Harden that was once the face of a franchise for the better part of the last decade, who could dribble the ball and hold on to the ball and be ball dominant over and over again with impunity. You got to think about it from that perspective. And the fact that the two of those individuals are now on the same team, and him and Kyrie Irving cannot be ignored. I would submit to you that under no circumstance, at no time in LeBron James' career, I know that he had Kyrie, and I know there were other dudes to deal with, but in terms of their cachet, their abilities, combined with the style of play that they have, there is no one that would be especially LeBron James. He hasn't had to deal with that duo. He might have had one of those dudes. He hasn't had to have two of them on the same team, particularly when he was new to the team. That wasn't him when he goes to Miami. You got D-Wade there. You go back to Cleveland, you come back as a champion, and it's just Kyrie, a young Kyrie, who hadn't won anything yet, as you articulated on many occasions, Max, that you had to inherit and teach on how to win and things of that nature. Then, obviously, you know what? You go to L.A., and when you go to L.A., you don't really have a team as of yet, and then you get Anthony Davis, okay? You have